Good afternoon to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here with your hurricane outlook and discussion, focusing on Hurricane Irma, and it is still a Category 5. The latest information is starting to come in from the National Hurricane Center, their 5 o'clock advisory package, as I like to call it. So let's start off. There is a lot to go over, not just with Irma, but we now have Hurricane Jose, if you can fathom that, and we will talk about that as well, albeit very brief. So this is the satellite animation of Hurricane Irma, and luckily and finally it's moving away. The core, after absolutely devastating some of these islands through here, the extent of which will be known over the next few days, I'm sure, it's moving away, and the hurricane force winds and tropical storm force winds starting to really impact the eastern and northeastern parts of Puerto Rico, the island of Vieques, and to some extent here, the U.S. Virgin Islands, the St. Croix area. But this will be moving away, and that's certainly good news. The bad news is, earlier today it looked a little bit more ragged. See that? And then now it's got that rounded ball again. Oh my goodness, there it goes, and that unbelievable outflow in the upper levels of the atmosphere. A huge hurricane, unprecedented in modern records through this portion of the Southwest Atlantic Basin, the southwest portion of the northern Atlantic Ocean. This is absolutely incredible, and none of that means that this is positive. Don't get me wrong. There has to be other words to describe this that both take in the awe-inspiring look to what nature is doing and conveying the sense of danger as well. So maybe you can help me with that. You can be my thesaurus. So the update from the Hurricane Center, the 5 p.m. advisory, pressure back down again here to 914 millibars, and the winds are still 185 miles per hour. Now, I need to explain this part right here. The 185 mile per hour winds are not all over near the eye wall here or the core. They're going to be in various places that the airplane or airplanes sample. It's not the ring of convection is filled with 185 mile per hour winds. That's not how it works. And I'll show you this on radar to give you an example to help you understand it better. Because there's a misconception from folks that think 185, well, that must be what it's like anywhere in the hurricane where it says hurricane force winds, and that's simply not true. And part of what I want to do is help you to understand what's happening, because then you can better prepare for it, right? I think that's reasonable. So let's go back to the advisory information here. We click on Public Advisory, and hopefully this will load. It is absolutely stunning, like I said earlier, to think that the National Hurricane Center site is slow, and it's just because so many people need information. It is amazing that that's happening. It really is. The significance of that stands for itself. So the bearing here, still such a pesky and persistent 285 degrees or west-northwest to the layman, but the compass bearing 285 degrees. So, due west is a straight line kind of like that. And then, 285 is something like this, roughly. That's not the exact angle, but anyway, it didn't help. It passed over some of those islands, and we will see what happened from there. It's still moving at a brisk pace at 16 miles per hour, so it's neither stalling or it's not going too fast, so there's no relative shear going on, and it's just chugging right along. And luckily, like I said, and fortunately, it's moving out of the islands. Now, we'll get to this in a moment. Let's see if the updated track map from the Hurricane Center is available off of their server. We'll wait for this to load. Maybe I can toggle it and tease it. I've got very fast internet here at the office. This is just showing you all the millions of people trying to hit this at the same time, plus all the automatic software that's trying to pull it down. So let's look at this real quick. This is the earliest reasonable arrival time of tropical storm force winds, and I had a question from someone saying, well, basically, if the track is aimed up here, then why are we looking at tropical storm conditions perhaps up into North Carolina and elsewhere? Well, you got to remember, as the center of this moves along, all of this moves along with it, and so everything advances north. Plus, the tropical storm force winds extend out, if we go back to the advisory, quite a ways from the center. And if we go and look at the discussion and 48-hour outlook, it's located right here, and the hurricane force winds are 50 miles from the center, and tropical storm force winds extend outward up to 185 miles from the center. So if we go back to that other graphic, then you can understand, hopefully, that as this moves along, the wind field goes with it. So you have this huge area of hurricane and tropical storm force winds. The hurricane force wind's not quite as large as, say, Katrina. That was 90 to 105 miles from the center. But this tropical storm wind field is gigantic, and it's just going to move out ahead and swamp these areas with, 39 mile per hour winds or higher. And that's a big problem for people that are trying to prepare. So the map is slowly trying to load. Oh boy, I'm not even going to mess with it. So this should be the 5 o'clock advisory map. I do believe that it is. Nope. Still 2 p.m. Let's see if we can get it to update. We'll kind of tease it and hit that return button. Go back over here. Click on the map. Oh man, it's just being so slow. Do we have it yet? Is this it? Do we have a winner? This is real time as it happens. History that the hurricane center site is bogged down. While we're waiting for that to load, I don't want to just sit here and ad lib. Let's take a look at Jose real quick. The stats on Jose, 5 p.m. Eastern Time or Atlantic Standard Time, winds are 75, so it's a hurricane now. Much smaller area of storm and hurricane force winds, and this is the forecast track over the next several days. That's incredible, and it's forecast to become a major hurricane, so this too will start sending out swells to these areas at the very least, and it could be a factor. You never know. Getting sandwiched in here between Bermuda, the Dominican Republic, North Carolina, and Florida over the next 5 days. Yes, we do want to keep an eye on it because no, we don't know for sure where this will end up. So let's see if our map is ever going to load. We'll just keep waiting for it and waiting for it. It's not doing it. So we're going to try one more time here. Go home to the home page. This is absolutely, you just have no idea, since I know what I know about how this works, for it to be this slow is truly staggering. And I know you're like, Mark, let it go, dude. But this is amazing. And there's other graphics that I could pull from other sources, but I'd like to show you from the official source here, the National Hurricane Center. So we'll keep waiting. If I don't get to pull it up, we'll figure out another alternative. All right, so the radar out of San Juan, and this is what I wanted to talk about in terms of understanding the wind. So the Hurricane Hunter planes fly through here in different patterns, something like this, and they do these drops of dropsons into the eye to get the pressure. They measure with radar and other devices airspeed, and it's kind of complicated, but when they say it's a maximum sustained winds of 185 miles per hour, this entire donut in here does not have 185 mile per hour winds within it. Some areas are going to be far less, and some areas could be more. Plus, these planes that are sampling, there's not hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. There's only so many that are available at any one time, and they're tiny compared to this huge force of nature. So there could be an area of convective activity that pops up. Let's get rid of that. I want to really zoom in tight here if this will let me. So some of these radar returns in here, those reds that show up right there, and this is just an example, maybe that one right there at the end that I'm coloring blue, maybe that's where the 185 mile per hour winds are located. That's the maximum sustained wind that they were able to find. And so it's academic because, hey, anything over 120, 130 really starts to become destructive, and we need to keep that in mind. And this poor thing is just struggling. Let's see if we can get the map to load. How many people are hitting this? My goodness. Come on, do it! It's probably still going to say 2 p.m., isn't it? Let's look at the actual image. No, let's just wait. So back to the radar. Really, you need to understand that. And I cannot estimate myself exactly what the wind speeds are in these bands, but you can bet that some of these gusts here coming out of the northwest near San Juan are approaching hurricane force. So understanding the wind field and how it works is important. You just need to remember that it's a big, dangerous hurricane heading your way. Don't focus on the category as much as the overall impact. So I'm betting that this is the 5 o'clock update. Let's see if I'm right about that. I mean, it's 6 minutes after 5 Eastern time, and this should be the most updated map. So you can see what happens here. I mean, there's the locations. That seems accurate. Oh, yeah, there it is. There's my clue. 5 p.m. And thanks for bearing with me, people. This has never happened before in modern times that I can think of. It was a little slow during Matthew, but this is incredible. So here we go. This is the new updated forecast track. It goes north of the Greater Antilles, through the Bahamas, real close to the tip of the northern coast of Cuba, and then possibly a direct hit on Miami, and then right up off the coast, very similar to Matthew last year, but not missing by 30 miles this time. Perhaps. This can still change. What seems really good so far is the reduction of the risk to the west coast of Florida and the lower Keys overall from a direct hit from the core. Now remember, this cone of uncertainty is here for a reason. The center could be right there where they say it is supposed to be in 5 days, or it could be over here, it could be out up here, it could be over here somewhere. I don't want to say you never know, but that's what it's there for. The error at that time frame is well over 200 miles, and it could be anywhere the center within that cone. So you need to remember that. The error cone is much smaller the closer to the current time you are, obviously, but when you get out to days 4 and 5, the risk of this being somewhere in there, but not exactly where they show it being, is greater. So don't focus on the exact center. You need to be thinking about preparedness anywhere from Wilmington all the way down through Florida here, including the interior areas. It's time, and I know a lot of people have already jumped on it, but I expect that there will be a little bit more of an adjustment to the north and east, and it's just going to matter, when does this turn happen? And is there still a chance that it could come up and just head out? Big question mark with that. It's possible, but most of the clustered models, as I'm going to show you here in a moment, bring this up into Florida and the southeast United States over the next 5 to 6 days. So I already looked at the radar, so we're going to go over to the Google Maps just real quick. Obviously, with this passing the core of it up here roughly, heading off in this direction, Turks and Caicos up next. Massive storm surge expected there. That's the big worry from me, is that the 20 feet of surge coming in the southeast Bahamas as a whole, anywhere where there's onshore flow, really going to push that water up. These swells are going to be emanating out as well, and the surfers are going to love it, but that could be a huge hazard. And then, of course, we really start to worry about what happens as this comes through very close to Cuba and then takes that northern turn. And this is a huge population center. You don't need me to tell you that. It's obvious. And that is a giant problem, one that we have not seen in a long, long time. If this makes a direct hit, it could be substantial in terms of American history. And you know me, I'm not going to sound like, whatever, doom and gloom unless we need to. And in this case, we need to. 18 UTC model spread here. Overall, very tightly clustered. Again, don't worry about that one. Don't worry about that one. These are the ones that are so tightly clustered. It looks like a bundle of wires that somebody tied together at each of these points here, these time history points, with clips. And so everything's nice and neat. It is extremely rare to see this, okay? Let me zoom in. I need to show you this. This is how important this really is. All right, so let's zoom in tight. Look at that. That kind of agreement out at days 4 and 5 here especially, that this comes off the coast of Florida if it makes landfall and gets over here and produces this surge. Boy, oh boy, the surge values along the coast up here could be stunning and life-threatening like you have never seen in modern history. So do not mess around with this. Don't wait and see what happens. If they tell you to get out, you've got to go, because that surge can come up, and you need to just look at history. In the late 1800s, there was a hurricane, the Sea Island hurricane, I think it's called, or Sea Islands. People were found in oak trees, both living and dead, and that is not myth or legend or scare tactics. This is the reality that we have been saying could happen, and it's only a matter of when and not if. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the clock is running out, and you need to be ready for this. One thing I'm going to do to help you get ready, and this is very important, it is more than just trying to earn an income. I can't work for free, obviously, and so this app really helps to pay the bills and build a better future for what we're doing. Hurricane Impact on the App Store. It's an iPhone app, and that's what it looks like. That's the logo. It's 2 words, Hurricane Impact. Why should you get it? Why should I get your $4? It's $3.99. Well, I'm going to tell you. It's got the information in here with the news update, these little messages I can post. The video updates go into the video section. And then we have the tracking section with maps and graphics, a lot of which I can customize on the fly. Starting tomorrow, and I want you to listen to me very carefully, I am leaving for the southern and southeast part of Florida to set up equipment to monitor Hurricane Irma when it makes presumed landfall in that region or a very close pass. The app is where that will go, most of it. We will provide some stuff out on the internet for free, but like I said, how many of you work your rear end off and don't get paid for it? I must think about the future, and this is how we can help pay for it. This is how I can build a better app in the future, an Android app as well that is stable, etc., and so forth. This is not about Mark trying to get rich. There are a lot of apps out there that are making good money right now. A grand total of 0 of them. And if you remember, in terms of this little pitch I'm giving, this is what I want you to remember. 0 of those apps are actually going to set up equipment with live feeds and live weather data in the path of Irma, and this app will. It did it in Matthew, it did it in Hermine, and we did it during Harvey. And it works, and it is absolutely stunning. So for your $4, you get a front row seat to the most dangerous effects. And that's the other thing, is I can set this up, the equipment, and get the heck out of there, and nobody says, what an idiot. Oh, he's a fool. We're past that. The technology is there. It's not infallible. Stuff can go wrong, but we have so much of it that it's bound to have a lot of it that works, if not all of it. So that's what this app is all about. It's when it really hits the fan. That's why it's called Hurricane Impact. You've got all kinds, we partner with Hurricane Pro. Fantastic for tracking and information, but once they hit land, only Hurricane Impact, of all the apps out there, has this for you. You can see I'm passionate about it, but I also have to fund my future, not take a vacation to Rome with my family. That's not what this is about. This is about being able to do this and be around when the next time this happens, okay? So, I'm trying to be humble and not, beg for money, but boy, oh boy, if you want something to track this like nothing else can give you, we've got it, all right? So remember that. All right, I think I waited long enough for these different maps. What an unbelievable situation. A lot going on. I will be leaving, like I said, in the morning. The initial video stream that I do from here down into Florida, I will put on Ustream and simulcast on YouTube for everybody to watch. Once I start working and getting things set up, the streams will be basically confined to the app and to our subscriber services for our sustaining members on HurricaneTrack.com. However, I'm not a greedy you-know-what, and so I'm going to put one feed on YouTube live that will rotate through any cameras that I set up. So we try to balance things with giving the public stuff for free, but like I said, I cannot work for free. I cannot pay my mortgage on goodwill alone. And so there's this balance, and I think it'll work. So tomorrow, as I travel, you'll be able to tune in and watch on Ustream. It's ad-supported, or whatever you call it. But after that, the app and our subscriber site will have full access with a YouTube feed for the public, and we will not restrict that. It'll just rotate through the cameras as one camera gets exciting and the other one doesn't, etc. You'll see. It is a good balance. I feel good about it. It's not taking advantage of people. It's looking out for our future, and it's doing what we can help potentially millions of people see what's going on, and they'll be damn glad that they evacuated. That's what I want to be able to do, and you can help me do it. All right? If I haven't convinced you by now, I don't know what else I can do. I am Mark Sudduth. Thank you for tuning in. Tomorrow is go time, unless something crazy happens overnight with the modeling. I'll see you once more tonight. I'll talk again real quick on the 11 p.m. update. And then after that, it's time to head to Florida. I'll talk to you again tonight after the 11 o'clock advisory package.